I'm a widower. I was married almost 25 years. My wife passed away in late 2019. And in 2020, during COVID, I met a wonderful woman that 10 years younger than me. And she'd never had kids. And anyway, we're together. It's like we're married. We're not actually married, but the application of your program certainly applies. And she was living with me. After 2 years, she moved in with me. And then in June 30th, July 1st, she moved out. I was like beside myself. Uh, and so anyway, I do real estate deals with Justin. And he said, hey, you ought to look up Josh Hudson on YouTube. And so I started watching your YouTube channels, and I picked up so much in the beginning that I was able to, not immediately, but within a month, I was able to flip her back around. Because when she left, she said, we're done. It's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
I'm moving on. I thought you were the right guy. You're not, blah, blah, blah. And so, but at that time, I was doing just like on your videos, all the wrong things. I was justifying, making lists, writing long love letters, telling her that, she's
Yeah.
blowing it. I mean, just all the classic signals that you go through. And what had really happened in the relationship is I just completely shut down. I had a bad fall last year when I was traveling, and I was actually in bed for 3 months. I became semi-depressed, and she was getting irritated after the beginning of the year that I wasn't, making a strong enough effort to come back, because typically,
Yes.
I'm training 5 to 7 days a week. And basically I just shut everything down to where I was just working. And I wasn't paying attention to her, and I wasn't giving her my time, love, or attention. And then she started stonewalling me, which pissed me off. And it just turned into a Mexican standoff, basically. And then she left, and I started watching your videos, and I just said, Jesus, I'm just not even doing what I typically do. The the kind of the uh, crux of it, when she moved in, she has two cats. I'm allergic to cats, and that turned out to be a massive issue. And I was losing sleep, which was aggravating my whole behavior, off the rails behavior. I was, when you go months and months with no sleep, I see why they use that as a torture technique.
Yeah.
You're messed up.
Yep.
And I was messed up. And then when she moved out, that actually gave me a chance to, re-clean the house, feel healthy again. I started training, and little by little, we just would go for a walk here and there. And I just metamorphosized back to the guy she started dating. And she said, I don't know what's happened to you, but whatever you're doing, you got to keep doing it.
So what specifically do you think you were doing in that month period that kind of got her back initially, Rudy?
It was just about taking action. Signing up for your course. I got a therapist to really figure out, the reasons I shut down. Started working out every day again, like I typically do. Um, uh, Stopped sending her, 2-mile text and 8-page letters and, all that BS. And I just really turned myself around. And it's like you say in your course and in your videos, you know what? Even when I was married for that amount of time, I really didn't know that how much, how pivotal the male energy, the male
Yeah, the masculine energy, right?
personality, how dominant that is in the relationship. And if you're crushing it, in all the things that in life, physically, mentally, I put it physically, mentally, uh, and emotionally is your interpersonal relationships. If you can really do peak performance in all three of those areas, then you become what you call high value male. And, and that's what happened. And she goes, by so July 1st, by August, she said, I love you again. And, I'm open to let's forget about, that bad, she called it our bad year. So forget about
Yeah.
the bad year. Let's keep building on, because we've been together almost 4 years. So one bad year, three great ones, and we have the future. And I'm just madly in love with her. And I think she feels the same. We had a wonderful day yesterday. Just took the day off, drove to Julian, had breakfast, walked the town, came back home, watched a movie, then had sex. It was just like a perfect day. So,
That's amazing. And so, like, how long ago did you join the program?
I think I joined the program actually in August. So I did July. I would just watch all your YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Every single one of them you have on your channel. I watched those first, and
Yeah.
I gleaned enough from those to really understand that, hey, I need to modify my stuff. I mean, this is about me, not her.
Yeah.
And so I just started then, and I had a few glitches in trying to get a coaching call. The first one, I'm
Okay.
in now, but uh, getting on the calendar, and then I was having some issues with my email, and I wasn't getting the response back, and so it took a little longer for me to actually sign up for the course.
Oh, wow.
But by the time I had my first call with Greg, she was back already. So I signed up for the course because I really wanted to do the whole deep dive. I could have shortcutted it and not gone to the course and thought I did enough, but I'm deep enough in the course now where I know that you got to really anchor it.
Rudy, that's amazing. So, I mean, you joined in August, and so it only took you like a month to have this turnaround, like you said. That's amazing. She said she was completely done. And what I don't think you might have already mentioned this to me, but what do you think you were doing? Not after she said she was done, like the love letters. We know that's not okay, but what were you doing in the relationship that caused her to separate you from you in the first place?
Well, we were living together. We weren't getting along. The cats were affecting me. We tried to separate the bedrooms, and it was just like a dripping faucet, like one bad thing, another bad thing, another bad thing. And then I was questioning because I was married for so long to a wonderful, I mean, my soulmate, and
Yeah.
we never had an argument. I raised three children with that woman, and we were like, you know, peanut butter and jelly. I mean, perfect. And then she got cancer and she died. And so I wasn't used to having someone stand up to me like her, like my new girlfriend.
Yeah.
And, and I didn't have the wherewithal to pull it back around and really sit down and communicate with her. And because I was going through so many things physically, we just stopped talking. And uh and then even in my head, I was going, I hope she moves out. And when you're doing shit like that, you're not going to win. So, but it was the real just lack of communication and lack of, and then we stopped having sex, so we hadn't had sex in months. Uh, So we started we were roommates for
Yeah.
about 6 months. And, I didn't care if I kissed her goodbye in the morning and she didn't care if she saw me. And it was it was a bad situation.
Yeah, it was kind of that slow demise, right? Just like
Yeah.
slowly drifting apart. It's like one step at a time. You're like,
Yeah.
how did I get here?
Yeah. It's one drop and then it turns into a little river and then it's a stream and then it's pretty soon it's the Niagara Falls.
So Rudy, you already touched on a couple of key points of the things that you shifted. I mean, you spoke more to what you stopped doing, right? Like no more love letters, no more chasing and like pressuring her, which she sees as like, that pressure, manipulation, and control, which she's like, oh my God, women just like repulsed from that. But what did you have you positively done with her in order to kind of re-spark this attraction?
Well, so I just kind of pulled back and I started working on myself. And we were still talking, and she kind of said, she goes, "Wow, you've shifted. I don't, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something." And I'd like to. She said, could we go for a walk?" And we used to walk. That was kind of our thing. 3 days a week, 4 or 5 miles, where we would have really deep conversation. And that
Right.
was how we dated and fell in love. And so she invited me on a walk, and I just stopped closing her. I said, "Hey, I'm going to just be my best self and show up that way and quit the pressure tactics and, the control." Because she's a businesswoman and, self made. And she even said that to me. She goes, "I feel like you're trying to control me. I hate it. I'm not gonna be controlled." And I'm kind of an alpha male real estate developer, hard hitting guy. And you know, when I usually go after something, I get it. And uh and so I had to really take a step back and be, just be. Uh and so you have it all in the course. I think you're doing a great thing too, but I just want to tell you this, man to man, going from the male side and not trying to do the couples. Because I was with Tamara kind of in a couples thing for a little while. And when you're in couples, it's one person telling the therapist how messed up the other person is, and the other person telling the therapist or defending or telling them how messed up that person is. And it's like the Cold War, right? You got two countries that that want to be right, and then you have a third party that's supposed to be a judge. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't think it's. I don't know. The thing that we didn't have is there was no abuse. There was no screaming. I would never cheat on her. So I didn't do anything that were the like deal killers. I just shut down and stopped communicating with her. That was my worst offense. So if you have those other big things, well, then maybe, couples counseling is the right way to go.
Sure.
But if you don't, what you have going is, I think it's perfect, because when I changed and she saw the consistency in me, she went back to being her old self and was just started being affectionate and loving and communicative and, you know, wants to be with me more. And I let her like invite me. What I said to her is, I said, "I'd like you to invite me back into your life in whatever way that you think's appropriate, in a natural way." And so now we're back to how we were for the first couple of years, like when we were dating, where we're together 3, 4 days a week, but not 7/24. And one of the things my therapist told me, she says it's very common. You're 65, you were married almost 25 years, you raised a family, not with her. She's 55, she's been single 35 years out of the last 30 years out of the last 35. She had two failed marriages. You're both very well established. You, uh, she called it uh, LAT, yeah, LAT. She said there's a new thing in couples therapy called LAT. So it's living apart together. So you live apart, but you're still a couple. And if that's our like programming and destiny, I'm open for that. So we're going like next month, we're going to Greece for 2 weeks.
Oh, beautiful.
Together to 724. So we're going to have a lot of great time being together full time, but I
Yeah.
don't need to have her live with me for me to be happy. I've
And
got three sons that, they're all millennials. None of them are married. I have them over every Sunday for dinner. And we keep our original family together.
yes.
And so that's very important to me. And so I can do it like this.
Yeah. And there's something to be said, Rudy, about that lack of like pressure and neediness that causes her to feel safe and want to be with you more, right? And a lot of guys, that's I think the biggest obstacle for them is that when the wife or your girlfriend or whatever is pulling away, that natural tendency is like, no, come here, like love letters and fix, fix, fix. But it has the opposite effect, right? And so when you can, and this is kind of like the ego death, where it's like I have to change who I am in order to get something different. And for you, was there like a moment or two where that realization kind of hit you?
Oh yeah, it was when I started watching your videos on YouTube, is it hit me. I had like a Eureka moment
Mm.
where I go, I mean, I watched, 20 in a however many you have, I don't know how many, but I spent one night watching as many as I could find back to back to back to back, and I was taking notes, and I was like, right then I go, I've got to, this is on me. I've got to work myself out. So,
Beautiful. Yeah.
so there was plenty there for me to sink my teeth into. Uh, uh, and then I knew I was going to do the course.
Fantastic.
So,
Rudy, I always like to ask this question on the calls with the guys because after doing this for a decade now, I still pretend that I don't know what I'm talking about because it opens me up to learn new things, right? Unless if I
yeah,
think I know everything, I'll learn nothing.
yeah.
So if you were to tell another guy, actually, no, I like to say this. Let's say you could go in a time machine and talk to yourself maybe a year ago while you're like the slow demise is happening. What's a piece of advice you would give yourself a year ago and how to like turn this around?
You have to be your best self. You
Mm.
have to show up high value. Because if you're doing that in every area of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, shit doesn't go wrong. Not for me, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I've been that way. I've always been a peak performance guy. I've
Yeah.
always been in coaching, listening to Tony. I was the guy that got Grant Cardone in the apartment business. His first apartment deal was with me in the 90s.
Wow.
And he was my first partner. And you know who he is.
I do know Grant. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's still a friend. So I've been around, the best of the best. And I know that if you're displaying that behavior, if that woman doesn't come back to you, that's the wrong woman.
Wow. That is so on the effing nose right there.
Yeah.
And can I just like stay here for a second? I want to reiterate what you just said because that is so powerful. If you know in your heart that you are doing these high value behaviors and she doesn't come back to you, she is not the right woman. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and when I flipped it around, she came back so fast. It wasn't, It was like that.
It's like she couldn't even control it. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like it's something biological in a woman that when you're being this high value, loving, supporting, leading, assertive, dominant man, it's hardwired into her DNA to be attracted, to be drawn to that kind of guy.
You're exactly right. It's hardwired into the survival mode of a human being. I'm reading that last book on your book list, Hold Me Tight. I'm listening to it. I do audiobooks. And
So do I.
I mean, I'm at the beginning, but I remember my late wife, Melinda, uh, when we would be in public, uh, uh, and there was a baby screaming, she said her boobs would just hurt. Like, oh my God, my boobs are killing me. That baby's got to stop screaming. And what that is it's hardwired for that baby to go ape shit if it's not getting the proper attention. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. 10,000 years ago, if a woman died in childbirth and the child lived, then the tribe, the other woman took care of that baby because we're hardwired that way, right? And so it's the same thing in the relationships. If you're if you're if you have a woman that fell in love with you at a particular point in time, they didn't fall in love with a bum, they didn't fall in love with a homeless guy, they didn't fall in love with a guy that's out drinking and fucking around every night. They fell in love with you when you were at your best self. And if you're not showing up that way, then
They'll
it's
give you
totally,
hell.
yeah, it's totally understandable how you can get, into the weeds. But if you're peak performing in all areas of your life, and and that woman isn't coming back to you, then to me, then it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started being the guy that I was, because when you're married to someone for as long as I was married and had this deeper relationship, when they pass away, you go through a lot of shit. And maybe I met my girlfriend's name's Tamara. Maybe I met Tamara too soon, but anyway, we fell in love and she's perfect. So, and now, I mean, she wants to talk to me at least twice a day. I mean, minimum. So
and that obsessive reaching out to you is more of a sign of evidence than anything that you are being that man.
Yeah. And but I give her space, and then I give her a little bit of space, and she's calling me. What are you doing? What's going on? When are we getting together? So you're on to something, brother. Keep it up.
Rudy, I appreciate you. Is there anything else I can do for you? Any questions you have for me? Any other way I could serve you?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm trying to participate in the Facebook group. Probably halfway through the course. I'm talking with Greg. I've got my own workbook. I printed all the PDFs, so I put them in a binder. It's almost like a real estate deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.